Alright, hello everybody. I'm Justin White from Mad Science MMA, and today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about hand wraps. Now, before we get into actually how I wrap hands, it's important to note that there are a lot of different ways of doing it. I don't necessarily consider there to be a right way or a wrong way. Boxers tend to do it one way, MMA guys tend to do it another way. It doesn't really matter that much as long as you get the wrap to do what you need it to do. Okay? Now, when you wrap up your hands for boxing, or for bag work, or for sparring, any of the combat sports, you need it basically to do two things. One, you want to have enough pressure around the wrist that it doesn't cut off blood flow, but it will support the wrist. It increases the hydrostatic pressure around those small bones, and it keeps the wrist from flopping as easily in case you have bad form, or in case you have a missed blow kind of issue. Now, the other thing to consider is, will the wrap prevent damage in between the knuckles and protect the small bones in the back of the hand? And for that to happen, you want it to compress these bones, not so much that they deform around each other, but just keep them together so that when you're hit on the end of the knuckles, the bones in the back of the hand don't flare out like that. And for those of you that have ever struck a bag or struck pads and then found blood pooled in between the webbing of the outer fingers, that can be because your wraps weren't holding those bones together to keep them from fanning out. So those are some things to consider from the style of wrap you're using. Is it going to support my wrist? Is it going to support the small bones in the back of the hand? And if you want it to offer some padding over the knuckle, if you're going to use your wraps on a bag without using gloves, that's something else you need to consider in the style of wraps that you do. The last thing that a good set of wrapping needs to do is mimic the tape job you would have on your hands if you were competing in an event in your sport. Alright, so if you're going to be boxing, you want a wrap job that's going to mimic the tape job for a boxing match. If you're doing mixed martial arts, you want to wrap in a fashion that's going to mimic the tape job of a mixed martial arts competition. That way you have consistency in what you can and cannot do with your hands, and that can be an extra edge in competition, so bear that in mind. So now that that's all covered, we'll go ahead and we'll do the demonstration, and I'll show you how I wrap my hands for mixed martial arts training. Now, as I get into the actual wrapping demonstration here, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on what wrap I use. I like to use the 180-inch wrap, 180 inches, with the slight flexibility in it. It's sometimes what they call a Mexican-style wrap. It's got a little bit of give in it. That's my preference. And the length, if you're going to wrap the way that I'm going to show wrap, you're going to need 180 inches of length in your wrap. Different wrapping styles can get by with 108 inches, but I prefer the 180-inch wrap. So I'm going to hook the tab of the wrap over my thumb, and I'm going to go over the wrist a couple times, making it pretty snug, not so much that it starts cutting off circulation, but supporting the wrist. Then I come across the palm and over the back of my knuckles, and I'll do that about 2 times. Then I'm going to do 3 folds here. I'm going to do 1 fold, 2 folds, 3 folds, and I'm holding in place with my thumb the last fold. This is going to be the pad, the bubble over my knuckles. Okay? So I go over all those folds, and I will give you a better camera angle on this in a moment. I cinch them down tight, and then I need to pull my thumb out. Now I have a nice layering over my knuckles. Now the reason I do it that way is because I want this style of wrap to be suitable for mixed martial arts training. And when I tape my hands or tape one of my fighters' hands for competition, you have that bubble of gauze and tape on top. And we'll talk a little more about some of the other things we'll have going on with this style of wrap. So now I go over the back of the hand again, and I come up and across the back of the hand and in between my last two fingers, and that's going to start the process of cinching that bubble down into my knuckles. Come back over the top of the hand again, down to the wrist, over the back of the hand, across the palm, and up in between the two first fingers, index finger and your social finger. And this thing will get twisted up on you a little bit. That's just part of the fun. So now I've cinched my bubble down nice and tight. The remaining tail end of wrap that I have here, I'll use it, come around the wrist, up over the knuckles one more time just to cinch all that padding down, and then the remaining bit is going to come around the wrist to give more support to those small bones in the wrist. And then I'm going to secure this all in place with the Velcro tab. Okay? So this is an MMA style wrap. You get quite a bit more padding over the knuckles than you would in a boxing style wrap. And you have nothing on the thumb and very little in the palm, so you can still grab quite effectively and strike. When you see wraps done for boxing, they will do usually quite a bit more support for the thumb itself, and the reason for that is because they don't need to be grabbing, and also if you look at a boxing glove, the thumb tends to be held out to the side a little like that, and so the thumb needs a little more support. You'll hit that sucker and it'll hurt pretty good. Nobody understands the phrase "sticks out like a sore thumb" more than a striker does, believe me. Now as I do this other hand, we'll shift the camera angle and give you a better look at how this is done. Hook the tab on the thumb. Go around the wrist a couple times, get your initial support. Come across the back of the hand a couple times, get those small bones held together. Make your 3 folds here to form the pad, or what we call the bubble. And you can see I'm holding those in place with my thumb. Cinch those down, snake that thumb back out. There's your bubble. Cross the back of the hand, under the wrist, back up over, in between the pinky and ring finger, and that'll start cinching that bubble down onto your hand. So you don't want it to move around while you're working. You don't want it to shift while you're packing your gloves on over these. Go over the back. You can also use this flap to tuck in little doodly bits like this. Technical term, doodly bits. And as you come up, go in between index finger, social finger. Cinch that down. Now you can go right to putting the rest of this on the wrist entirely if you have weaker wrists, or you can go once more around the hand. To cover all that and just kind of make it look pretty if you care about that kind of thing. And there you go. Your thumbs are clear, your fingers are clear, so you can grab, which is what you want for mixed martial arts training. You want to be able to grab, and you want to be able to use your thumbs, use your grips, all that fun stuff. You have a little bit more of a bubble over the knuckles, which is analogous to the bulge of gauze and tape you're going to get when your hands are taped for MMA competition. So that's how I wrap hands. Hopefully you'll be able to duplicate this from watching the video. And remember, there's a lot of different ways of doing it. As long as it supports the small bones in the wrist and supports the long bones in the back of the hand, should be good to go. Alright, so that's it. That's how to wrap hands. And you know, it's not complicated. It's just one of the tools of the trade if you're going to be studying the striking arts and hitting anything hard. And what I found is, in your training, your ability to hit something really hard will advance quicker than your ability of your hands to take being slammed into things really hard. So that's where the importance of these wraps really comes in. Now, just a quick word on hygiene. You're going to sweat a lot in these things. You're going to find yourself wiping your, your head sweat on them, and all sorts of nice noggin and facial juices soak into these things, and they go south of cheese really quick. So if you're going to wash these, I never roll them back up. I just make a big pile. If you're going to wash these, stick them in a garment bag or something, because this crap just loves to get wrapped around that pillar in the middle of your wash machine, and then your spouse gets mad at you. So throw them in a bag, wash them pretty often because they will get nasty. And remember, hands up, chin down, you'll be fine.